But if you're in one of the states that has adopted the SEC marketing rule, I believe so strongly since COVID in getting Google reviews, you have to do it. There's people out there stealing your clients because you have no Google reviews and you're just sitting out there with, the picture of your office is a piece of land with a shed on it or something. They don't ask their neighbor for a referral to
Right.
financial advisors. They might ask their CPA or attorney, but they do less of it now because they can Google it. Financial advisor near me. Look up only the 5-star reviews. Pick 3 of them. Go to their website. Spend average of 7 seconds on their homepage. Then they decide if you're going to be in the mix for the interviews or not. And if you're not, you're not. That's it.
Welcome to the Advisors Fuel podcast, where high-performing financial planners and wealth advisors discover proven processes and actionable strategies to elevate their client experience, grow their businesses faster, and achieve unprecedented success. Here's your host, Adam Koós, founder at Adrenaline Advisor Consulting at adrenalineadvisor.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Advisors Fuel podcast. This is a conversation from a podcast I was featured on recently, and we're excited to share it with our Advisors Fuel audience. In this discussion, we dig into what it really takes to grow and scale an advisory practice, from delegation and systems to marketing, staffing, and getting comfortable letting go of control. We also talk a lot about the mindset shifts advisors need to make if they want to build a business that doesn't depend entirely on them. If you're an advisor who's feeling stretched, thinking about growth, or just trying to figure out how to work on your business instead of constantly in it, I think you'll find this conversation really valuable. With that, let's jump in.
All right, Adam, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to hanging out with you and 2 high energy people. We're gonna have a good time today.
I know, right? And I'm literally just drinking my my new energy drink, my new Tronic, which I've kind of been obsessed with lately. It's like a brain chemistry, like supposed to give you more focus. So we got
Nice.
caffeine and 2 high energy people. So it's gonna be a great conversation today.
It's the sponsor of the show, apparently. Yeah, I might
Yeah,
have to check it out.
exactly. A non-paid sponsor.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
if
nice
Chris
kind of sponsor.
Williamson, if he wants to sponsor me, more than happy to take some of that money. But Adam, I'm so excited to have you here. We had some great conversations leading up to this. I'd love to start. Would you mind introducing yourself and share all the many hats that you wear and the things that you do right now?
Sure, yeah. Started my career as a financial advisor right out of college. Got recruited by a national brokerage firm started actually 10 days before the World Trade Center went down. So I always joke I was 21 years old. I look like I was 16 because it was 60 pounds ago. And I was going door to door, business to business, trying to convince people 3 times my age to trust me with their life savings while the market was precipitously falling. It was not easy, but I've always been a big believer in hard work and resilience, and it did really, really well right out of the gate. Started my company November 4th of 2004. So that's when I started my own firm. So I've been doing this for 24 years now. 4 years ago, I started really niching into business owners, working with owners.
Mhm.
And so I started another company called Elevate and Exit. And so alongside of our RIA, Libertas Wealth Management Group, we set up Elevate because I learned the hard way. You get these coaches that'll tell you that don't worry about it, just market everything into your current practice. And we ended up losing one of our most favorite clients because she says, well, I see a lot of the stuff you're doing isn't really me anymore. And so
Mhm.
it was a huge bummer. So I started Elevate so we could just go crazy and start marketing to business owners exclusively without having to worry about the cross-pollination issue.
Yeah.
So that was back in 2001. And then I have a partnership with a guy in Chicago, Asbury Research, where I manage portfolios for our clients, basically through technical analysis-based portfolios. And so I call it my half company. And then on September 9th, we're launching Adrenaline Advisor Consulting, which is a on-demand self-study coaching firm for financial advisors with a couple office hours per month. We're based in a bunch of chat rooms. So basically 50 courses, bunch of chat rooms where we can basically share how we've built our practice with other advisors who are kind of struggling to find that gasoline for their engine. Like they're hardworking, they're ethical people, but they're looking for the right gas. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
I love it. Amazing. I want to talk definitely about how you grew your business, both in the RA space, and I also want to talk about what you're doing on the coaching side of things. I'm curious because I always find this to be really interesting. Knowing that you're wearing multiple different hats, what are some of your thoughts around keeping things straight? What are your pieces of advice or recommendations if other people or advisors are thinking about, well, maybe they have a little bit of this desire to put their hands in a couple different cookie jars. Like, what would you give for advice? What have you done to kind of keep things straight? Like, how are you thinking about running and having multiple different businesses and not feeling like super overwhelmed or super bogged down in the weeds of the day to day?
There's just, I feel like there's just one answer to that on one piece of advice, and that is just, either delegate as much as you possibly can to someone or something.
Yeah.
When I say something, like we have so much at our office that's set up as systems and processes, automated processes. We have tons of things that are literally automated through whether it be, ManyChat for social media or Hubly or Zapier for, the follow-up processes and things like that. Our
Yeah.
entire onboarding process for new clients, I believe it's 67 steps long, and
Oof.
it's all automated. Like, we don't have to think about it. You don't go to bed at night going, "Oh shit, I forgot about that thing I was going to do," or did I check it? And then you get up and go downstairs and, "Oh, I did do it." And now you feel better, I guess. So I think the first thing is, making sure you can automate and systematize as much as humanly possible, which I think that's the easy part, honestly. If you know what to do, then you can do it. Um, but the hard part, I think, for most financial advisors is, and really any business owner, is control, right? We have a really hard time with this idea of trusting someone else to do it as good as we would do it and to
Yeah.
care as much as we would care. And I think that just comes down to having the right people on the bus and then trusting them and letting them do their job and take ownership of their position so you can go out and do other things. As Dan Sullivan says, whatever your unique ability is. Like Scottie, I imagine, we haven't talked too much about this, but I imagine Scottie's unique ability is probably promotion and speaking, and you're good at that. Like, I'm good at that. And
Yeah.
so what I need to be doing is I need to be out there talking to people. Or as Nick Murray once told me, the best designation in the entire financial planning world is not the CFP, it's not the CFA, it's not the CMT, it's the STP. It's the see the people designation. It's the people who see and talk to the most people who are the most successful, and that's what we need to be doing, is talking to people.
Yeah. So for those that are listening to the episode and they're thinking to themselves, like, I understand this concept, right? Like, I should trust my staff. I know that I should probably be doing less. And that's a pretty big theme, I think, for a lot of advisors, especially when they're in their first, like, I would say 5 to 10 years. They start hiring staff, but they don't fully trust the staff. They don't fully delegate to the staff. What are some ideas, tips? Like, what would you recommend to them if they're in the position where maybe you were, rewind, and you're like, okay, well, I want to grow my business and I don't want to work 7 days a week. So I know, right? I think we all understand logically, I should probably delegate more, but maybe they're worried that things are going to slip through the cracks. Would you recommend, like, hey, maybe build out the system first so that you know that the staff person can follow it? Or is there just like a leap of faith process that you just kind of follow? You're like, you know what, I'm just going to throw my assistant in, and if things like kind of hit the fan, then things hit the fan. Like, what's your recommendation there?
Yeah, I think that kind of the first part of the answer goes back to what we just talked about a second ago, which is, being able to trust that person and let go and let them do it. What I see a lot with advisors, however, and this is unfortunate and it's frustrating to me, it's frustrating to them, it's that sometimes it's the wrong person on the bus. So the
Mm,
reason you can't
yeah.
trust them is because they're not the right staff member. And what I like to tell people is that, think about all your staff, whether it's one person or three people. If you had the ability, it's kind of like if money were no issue, that question we ask our clients, what would you do with your life? Well, if money were no issue, if emotions were no issue, if you could literally clean house and start all over and you look at your staff, would you hire them again? How would you grade them? A, B, C, A plus, A minus, B plus. If you wouldn't hire them again, they're probably the wrong person on the bus, right? And you got to get that fixed before you can trust, because otherwise you're going to reach a point, like it's almost like a rev limiter, right? You're going to hit a point where you just can't go any faster because they're limiting your ability to grow and be efficient. So I think having the right people on the bus and going through that terrible, awful hassle of a process of parting ways and
Yeah.
hiring the right person. And then the second part would be delegating and trusting and letting it go because you have the right person on the bus. And then third, to directly answer your question, it would be, I personally think the best way to delegate any task is while you're doing it, pull up Zoom, record your screen, do it, save it, talk through it, and then, I mean, I wouldn't even use Zoom these days. I would use, Descript, for instance. Like, there's other companies out there, but it actually takes a transcript. I think Zoom might do that too, actually, but we use Descript. And that way, not only can you have a video teaching them how to do it that they can always refer back to,
Yeah.
but there's this transcript if they want to look something up. And here's what's really cool about Descript and other software like Descript is if something changes in the future in that process, you can go in there and type the change, and AI changes your voice in the video, and the instructions have changed, so you can
Wow.
keep up with it. Yeah,
That's really cool. Okay, I wasn't familiar. I use Loom for that type of
yeah.
stuff with my team, but that's really cool. So with the I'm so happy you mentioned that because I do agree with you. Like, I talk to a lot of advisors and we talk about their staff and they're like, yeah, the staff just isn't like proactive or blah, 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 whatever the thing is. And I'm like, you probably just have the wrong person on your team ultimately. Like, and there's no like system or process that's going to fix that if you just have the wrong person. But let's say somebody doesn't know if they have the wrong person or not. Like maybe they're like, well, I think this person might have the capability. I'm just not entirely sure. What questions can they ask themselves to make sure that they're not just going on their gut instinct? They're like, "Oh, I just feel like this isn't working," when in reality, maybe it's like feelings of control, like actually letting go of control. Maybe it's feelings of like my gut is saying like, "Oh, it's just this is so hard," but like in reality, maybe they suck as a boss. Like, how do you navigate that?
That's funny. I think I would, if they're married, I would ask their spouse what they think. I think
Mhm.
that getting an outside perspective is good. If
Yeah,
there's another staff member on the team, I would say, "Hey, you're allowed to say anything you want today in this meeting. We're trying to get better here, all of us, including me. What do you think about this?" And it could be in a one-on-one. Obviously, you don't want to put that person on the spot or make them think they're on the chopping block, right?
yeah,
So you could ask another staff member what they think. I think that most good business owners know within the first, I'm gonna say 30 days, whether or not the new hire is the right hire.
yeah,
Um, and if it's not within 90 days, then, maybe it is you, it's possible. But yeah, I think that probably the best way to do it, especially if you're kind of just so inside your head, is to get an outside perspective. And honestly, if it's not a spouse, if it's not, a friend or somebody else that knows the business enough, maybe it's a wholesaler, maybe it's, I don't know,
mm,
somebody close to you in your business that's not in your business. Think of them like a silent partner.
right,
But if you don't have anybody like that, then I'd be looking for someone to hire, like somebody who can help with uh, culture and team and coming in and looking at things from an outside perspective. Because let's just say hypothetically, it's not the good fit, and you get some help, and it's not the right fit. You can, I know it sounds like a cop out, but I mean, that person could be the reason why you have to part ways, right? Doesn't even have to be you. It could be like, look, I hired this person to help figure this out. We decided it's not a good fit, and sorry, you got to go. And it's
yeah,
time to get the right person on the bus. I always say it's like, I don't like to look at myself as like the shark in the office and we have all these other fish. I like to say that we are all piranhas and we're all swimming together as a team to go, kill the meat and
yeah.
and eat together. So
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I have the perspective, and I'm glad we're talking about staff because I think what I've uncovered running now multiple businesses and having grown my businesses is that staff really is everything. Like staff really is how you grow and scale your business. Obviously, like I like to think about the business owner, specifically the financial advisor journey as like in phases. Phase number one is if you don't have enough people on your calendar, that's not a staffing issue. That's like a systems and prospecting issue. You got to fix that first and foremost. You're not going to hire staff to fix that problem. You're not really going to hire like an outside done for you even to fix that problem. Like you got to fix that problem yourself because if you can't do it, you can't really teach somebody else to do it. Once that's done, then a lot of it comes down to staff, right? The systems and the processes are very important, but then it does come down to staff. Like you are limited ultimately by your ability to scale by your staffing and your structure. So I think some people overlook the staffing conversation or they find it to be like somewhat boring. I know I did early on in my career and I was like, I don't really want to fucking talk about that. I want to talk about like the fun, exciting stuff. Like what strategy am I going to use to get more people on my calendar? But the reality is like, it really is all about staff. And the way that I think about it and the way that I talk about it with people that I work with is that staff really ultimately should make your life easier. They should not make your life more difficult. So if your staff person is making your life more difficult because they're creating like more roadblocks in the process, They are asking the same question over and over and over again, and they're not learning from their mistakes. If they're not coming to you with solutions, they're just coming to you with problems. Like those are pretty clear signs that maybe it's time to reassess your staffing structure and think about how you're going to move forward from there.
Yeah, we have a big sign on our fridge that says, "There are no mistakes, only lessons." And
Mm,
but if you
yeah,
start seeing a lot of the same mistakes or similar mistakes, then there's an attention to detail problem there that they would struggle perhaps in any business, let alone a financial advisory practice. And
yeah,
we live in a world, right, where we're dealing with Social Security numbers and people's net worth, and probably the second most important thing to their health, and that's what we're dealing with here. We're financial doctors, financial surgeons.
yeah,
So I think that there really is no room for lack of A players on the team, and mostly A players, if not all A players. And it's funny you said the stages. I've said a lot of that the same or similarly. I totally agree. Like there's these stages in your business. For me, the first stage of my business was in early on in my career, called the first decade, was just working harder and then just like pushing the throttle down further. Like how hard can I work? How much time can I put in? Almost like a badge of honor. And then I learned that this is where we got to stage two, and all of a sudden it was like a shift, literally like shifting into a new gear.
yeah,
It was when I realized I wasn't to grow. I'm not a financial planning and investment management firm that does marketing. I'm a marketing firm that happens to do financial planning and investment management.
yeah,
When I figured that out, everything changed and we started growing really fast. And then the third phase, which is, a phase we reached in the past 5 years, was the scaling phase, where just like you said, you think like who, not how. You're not trying to figure out how to do things. You hire who's to do those things. And that's Dan Sullivan again, obviously, Who, Not How, the book. But it's trying to figure out how to scale so that you're doing less. Because I was guilty of it, this badge of honor. Like I work really crazy hours and
yeah,
look at my success and look how hard I'm working, and it makes me feel good to work hard. But I'm watching my kids grow up and I'm not spending enough time with them. I don't have, I'm not spending enough time with my wife. And don't get me wrong, I love my job. Like I always say, I haven't worked in 24 years, but
yeah,
that's a problem, right?
yeah,
So I think the badge of honor is being able to be really successful and grow a company that's ethical and really kind of saves people from bad advice and bad advisors,
yeah.
but to not have to work 70, 60, 50, or even 40 hours a week, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanna highlight what you said that because like, it was gold and it was, like, just said, like, just so casually and so nonchalantly, but you're not a financial planning firm that does marketing, you're a marketing firm that does financial planning, and I would love for you maybe to expand on that for any of the advisors listening that are thinking to themselves, like, "I got into this career because I wanna do financial planning, like, I wanna help people." And so thinking of myself as sales and marketing first maybe feels incongruent with that desire to, like,
Uh,
wanna help people. How would you address that?
I love thank you so much for bringing that up because I wanted to expand on it anyway, but I didn't want to go off on some random soapbox tangent here.
Yeah,
But I'm very, very, very passionate about this. I believe I mentioned, saving people from bad advice and bad advisors. And at our RIA, that's what gets me up every morning because
yeah,
there's no shortage of bad advisors out there. I hate to say it, that give bad advice that are unethical, and sadly, some of them are
yeah,
great marketers, great salespeople, right? So I believe that for the good people out there, and there's plenty of us, but for the good advisors out there, it's not a privilege for us to get good at marketing and growing our practice. It's a responsibility. Instead of looking at this like marketing is sales and sales is bad and it's snaky, look at it like you're a good advisor. You do above average work. You want to save people. You want to help them. You want to do that planning work at the conference table and go through those cash flow analyses. And you want to help people get to retirement on time and make work optional and stay that way forever, right? Well, if you don't tell anybody, how are you going to help anybody? So you have to get good at marketing. And the ironic thing is, that if you just embrace that, and I'm a pretty sales averse guy. In fact, everything we do at our office is like totally anti sales. I
mhm,
don't like selling it. It feels crappy to sell somebody. When I get sold, it annoys the hell out of me.
yeah.
And obviously, Scotty, like you and I, how many times have we gone in to buy something, or like you go to buy a car and somebody starts using sales techniques? You're like, guys, really?
I'm, like,
I mean,
rolling my eyes,
come
yeah.
on. Like that's not gonna work on us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think the answer is to be more salesy. So marketing has a bad connotation, I think, but I think that we need to get good at marketing because it is our responsibility to help people with good advice and ethical advice and help as many people as we can. So
I agree. And I would also I would layer in that because I am completely on the same page, right? Like I've always thought to myself, Like because when I first started my career as a financial advisor, I came from a consulting background. I got my CFA thinking I would go into equity research. I was like not a salesperson. I was not a marketer. Like I didn't really know financial planning either. I just kind of I was in consulting. Like that was my career for years. And so coming into this career and having to like sell yourself in this way was a big change for me, like emotionally and actually strategically. And I was like, I have no idea how to ask for a referral. Like I really sucked at it for a while. But I thought to myself, like, innately as a person, I believe I'm a good person. Like I believe Scottie, am a good person. And so if I believe I'm a good person, I also believe that I'll do what I believe is best for people, right? So I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm going to make perfect recommendations to everybody all the time, but I'm going to do what I believe is best for people at any point in time. And so because of that like innate belief, sales never actually really felt all that sticky for me because I was like, well, I'm just helping people, and if they don't take action, then I'm not actually helping them, right? So like I think there's sometimes a disconnect in the planning process of like, oh well, I'm educating and I'm providing information and I'm putting together a plan, and I'm like, yeah, but if they don't actually take action, they don't actually move forward, you don't get a referral, like you're actually not helping people. And that perspective shift really helped me grow and scale my business. But I really do love that perspective that if you are a good advisor and you do above average work and you help people, it's actually more of a responsibility than it is like an honor or a privilege to become really good at marketing. That's great.
Yeah. I think that what you said a second ago about taking action, that's the one thing I want to touch on. And the other, oh geez, what was the other thing you just said? I had it. Well, just hopefully I'll remember in a second
Yeah.
here. But I think that I've ended every I've probably done 180 plus presentations in my career, and
Yeah.
since '05, and ever since '05, I met this guy. He ended his presentation this day. I stole his idea. I do remember the other thing now. The other thing was that Michael Kidd says I stole this from him. He always talks about not shooting on people. In other words,
Yeah.
what you and we're doing, we're telling them what we do and what works for us.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's going to work for everybody. Not everything works for everyone, but I'm going to tell you this is what we're doing. I'm not saying you should do it, but here's what worked for us. And but anyway, so
Yeah.
that's the first thing. The second thing, and I'm going to forget this now. Oh, that's what it is. Those presentations fit for what, 20 years now, I guess. At the end of every presentation, I always end with the same Chinese proverb, and it goes like this: if you know, but you don't act, then you don't know. So all I'm always suggesting is now you know, right? So now you got to do something about it. You have to, relentlessly execute.
That's so good. I love that. I can almost guarantee you somebody listening to this podcast is gonna steal that for the end of their presentation. So this is like your little
That's
way of
fine.
paying it forward with that. So kind of staying on the marketing and building your business side of things, I'm curious, what does prospecting look like for you? So can you share like what you do right now in your business for prospecting, and maybe even going back, because knowing that you're kind of more progressed in your career, like it may have been different years ago. I don't know if it's still relevant, like what you used to do, but if you think it is, would love to hear kind of what you did in the past, what you do now, what you're finding success with, things like that.
Yeah, sure. I'm literally pulling up a list because I won't remember it all. And one of
Love
the
it.
things I'm always telling people is that, we all, as financial advisors, we all have these conversations with each other, with our friends in the business, right? Once, twice, three times a year. And it always goes, hey, what's going on? Like, oh, good. How about you? Oh, good. Hey, so what's working? What's working these days? Like, how many times have we asked that question, right?
Yeah.
And what I tell people, what's working for us is not one thing. And then the reason I started that coaching firm was because this friend of mine got mad at me. He goes, okay, fine, give me the top three things. I'm like, Leo, there is no top three things. Like if I gave you the three things, it'd be like the Chicago Symphony Orchestra playing with three instruments. It doesn't work that way. It's going to sound like shit. So you have to have everything working for you. And I know that sucks to hear, but it's the truth. So from a prospecting standpoint, you're right. It's different for me now than it was before. I'm doing a lot of things like this, right? We have 3 podcasts, one for business owners, one for retail clients, and then one for the consulting firm, the financial advisor coaching firm. So that's one thing we do. I write articles once a month called the monthly market brief. I'm a CMT, so I write about technical analysis once a month. I keep it super, super easy and simple. The point is brief, right? So keep it one page if possible, one chart, make it easy for people to get. I do quarterly screencasts where I just kind of go through a quick market update in 15 to 20 minutes on YouTube, send that out to our clients, put it on social media. We do, I believe very, very strongly. Now, I understand that some people are state registered, not SEC registered.
Mhm.
And I know there's other issues when it comes to broker dealers and things of that nature. But if you're in one of the states that has adopted the SEC marketing rule, I believe so strongly since COVID in getting Google reviews, you have to do it. Like
Mhm.
otherwise, the people, again, back to the unethical people, not to say everybody with 5-star reviews is unethical. That's not what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's people out there stealing your clients because you have no Google reviews and you're just sitting out there with, the picture of your office is a piece of land with a shed on it or something, so Google reviews is huge because people they're these days, since COVID especially, they don't ask their neighbor for a referral to
Right.
financial advisors. They
Right.
might ask their CPA or attorney, but they do less of it now because they can Google it. Financial advisor near me. Look up only the 5-star reviews. Pick 3 of them. Go to their website. Spend average of 7 seconds on their homepage.
Yeah.
Do they look good? Okay. Go to the team page. Let's see what they look like. They spend 10 seconds there. Then they decide if you're going to be in the mix for the interviews or not. And if you're not, you're not. That's it. So I think Google reviews are huge. It's the kind of step one from lead generation online.
Mhm.
Mining for prospects online is something that I used to do, but I teach it. But the way it works is you take your top 5 clients, make sure you're connected to them on LinkedIn, and then you find 2 connections for each of those clients that you want to meet. Because the statistics go that if you ask for a referral and say, hey, I'd like to, is there anybody else that you know that would enjoy some of the conversations we've had? And you put your head down, right? Like Bill Cates. And there's like a 20-something% chance you get a referral that way. There is a north of 80% chance you'll get an introduction if you tell them you want to meet someone they know. North of 80%, they're going to give you an introduction. And not just here's that person's contact info, but introduce you to them. So
Yeah.
that's one. We use a piece of software called Copilot. It's not Microsoft Copilot. It's Copilot.ai. It's based out of British Columbia, Canada. Been using them for 8 years. We've gotten millions of dollars of new clients from that using automation on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And we have scripts that we use for connections. We've had the most success picking a company and making the search just that company. So like, you're talking to Wendy's Incorporated and you're making all the messaging to Wendy's, so it feels very personal.
Mhm.
So I'm probably boring you at this point, but I mean I can go on and on and on, but there's several things that we're doing back to that orchestra analogy.
Yeah. No, this first of all, not boring me at all. This is like my jam. Like I love talking about this, and I know the advisors are appreciating it as well. I want to highlight and maybe create some clarity for anybody listening, and I love your take on it as well. There's 2 segments of what your prospecting looks like. There is a branding component, and then there's more of a direct outreach component. So there's like one indirect and one direct, and I like to highlight that because both work. Obviously, you're doing both of them. I think both work at different stages of your business. So, like doing a podcast, doing market commentary, things like that, those are things that help build your brand. Those don't always yield, I'm curious your take, like a direct referral from that moment. And I think that sometimes advisors confuse prospecting. They think it's all part of the same category. And they're like, oh, I'm going to do market commentary. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a YouTube channel. And then they do that, or I'm going to create my website. They do that. And they're like, wait a minute, why are like not hundreds of people flocking to me every single month? So that plus Copilot, which is interrupting people, right? So I run a done for you LinkedIn agency. I actually used to use
Okay. Yeah.
Copilot, so I'm familiar with it. The mining for reviews, like the actual like going on LinkedIn, those are all like interruption based or direct outreach based marketing strategies. So I'm curious, like obviously, at least my take on it is as we become more successful, we want to lean more towards like the former, which is like the branding, more like farming versus like the hunting analogy. Is that kind of the way you think about it also?
Totally. I totally agree with you. You called it direct and indirect. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. I call it active and passive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other, I call it building familiarity as opposed to like, all that, the articles, the screencasts, the podcasts, social media advertising. To me, that's all building familiarity and
Yeah.
letting people know who you are and that you're legit.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is it makes your clients, it makes you a thought leader amongst your clients.
Yeah.
So they're going to think more highly of you. We've gotten referrals from people. I'm not even on Nextdoor. Is it Nextdoor?
Yeah.
I don't
Next door.
know.
Yeah.
Facebook groups. But
Yeah.
somebody will say, I'm looking for a financial advisor. And apparently one of our clients will say, oh, check out Libertas. And I'm not even on there. I'm not even in the group. So I think that that's back to the orchestra again. You're doing all these things to build familiarity. You're building thought leadership amongst your clients. When
Mhm.
it comes to podcasts and things like this, sounds so stupid, and it is, in my opinion. But you do podcasts, videos, screencasts, and you'll start getting looked at like a celebrity. And I think that's so silly because I don't look at myself that way because I mean, I certainly don't have millions of followers. I'm no influencer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think because um, most people, their second biggest fear in life is death, and their first biggest fear is public speaking.
Yeah.
In other words, like if somebody dies next week and you're giving the eulogy, you'd rather be in the coffin as opposed to giving the eulogy. Um, but it's I think because people hate public speaking, when somebody does it, they're like, wow, look at that. That's amazing, and it gives you this elevated perception, whether it's real or not,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
thought leadership, which again generates more referrals. And then the interruptions, I love that you called it interruptions because that's what it is. But it's getting used to that. Like one of the things I've always tell people is like when somebody cold calls you and you get spammed, be nice to them because when you're mean to that person or you hang up on them, that psychology is just brewing in your brain
Yeah.
for when you call or you email somebody else. You're not going to want to do it because of how you treated that person.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying to make a living, right? So, yeah. Even if it's networking, like COIs, talking to COIs and taking them through a process that actually works, and kind of dripping on them and having meetings, value adds,
Yeah.
teaching them things. COIs, you remember the COVID things? It'd be like the 4 boxes. It would say, "Here's what my mom thinks I do. Here's what
Yeah.
my staff thinks I do." I
Yeah.
mean, we think because CPAs are smart and attorneys are smart, we think that they know what we do. They don't
Yeah.
know what we do.
No, no.
And
Yeah.
and especially if you
Yeah.
run a great practice and giving high level advice, and I mean, they really don't know what you do. So you
Yeah.
gotta tell them. You gotta tell them.
You're like, "Oh, Adam's like the IRA guy," and you're like,
Yeah,
or like Adam's, and you're like, "Okay, like I do more than just, set up an IRA every now and then." "Oh,
right.
you set up IRA guy." Yeah, and I'm glad that we talked about that and created that distinction, and the advice that I give to folks when I'm working with them, depending on where they are, so if you're, like, earlier on in your career, let's say earlier on within the first, like, 3 to 5 years, let's just say coming up on 5 years, you pretty much need to be exclusively using like an interruption or direct outreach type approach. You can do like the podcast, you can do the market commentary, you can do those things if you view them as value add activities, but like early on in your career, like those types of things are very, very, very challenging to see direct results from.
Right.
So I definitely recommend people focus on the things that are more interruption based. But I'm glad we talked about that because I think that um, it's 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 one of those things that when I see people do it, they're like, all right, Scotty, I'm doing all these prospecting things. I'm like, I have my podcast going. I spend all this time and all this money on building a website. I'm like, "Oh my god." I was like, "That is just, like, not the where you should be spending your time and energy when you're doing, like, less than $5,000 a month of revenue." Like
Right.
like, you need to be focused on other things, personally, is at least my take on it.
Yeah. No, I think that having maybe one familiarity building thought leadership type thing going,
Yeah,
whether that's I like to write an article, if that's your jam, do that. If it's a podcast, like the I've talked to several people in the podcasting world, and probably the best way to do it is to have one 30-minute podcast per month where you're interviewing somebody, and then
yep,
two 8 to 12-minute solo casts where you're just teaching something for
yep,
8 to 12 minutes. Post it on YouTube, throw it up on Apple Podcasts, do it at night, do it on the weekends.
yeah,
That active time when you can talk to people, the STP designation, right? That's
yeah.
when you should be doing those things. You don't do that during the day, otherwise you're just making excuses for yourself. Subconsciously, you're trying to avoid doing the tough work. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, totally agree.
So I'm curious, we also talked about, like, scaling your business. I think you mentioned, like, that was, like, the third step. I would love your take on, like, what you're doing to scale your business. I know we talked about, like, staffing, we talked about systems. Is there anything, like, deeper that we could go into when it comes to scaling, how you think about scaling your business? Like, what are some of your goals in terms of, like, revenue or business? Like, what do you wanna get to? Are you looking to sell businesses? Like, I'm just curious what that looks like and how you kinda think about that.
Yeah, this year our goal at the RIA is to bring in 30 million in AUM. Last year it was 25, and we hit that goal. And we're on track to break the 30 this year. So it's like we have our annual revenue goals, but from a scaling standpoint, I think that the biggest thing we've done that's worked so well to scale is, well, two things. One, back to we talked about it already, so I won't rehash the whole good staff, delegate. Um, I've gotten to a point where my lead financial advisor, her name's Kim, she does all our intro calls.
Mm,
So because she does our intro calls, which is our triage, the first step in our process,
yeah.
the clients don't expect me anymore. That was huge because they're
Wow.
so used to seeing me on podcasts and stuff like that. They when they learn, if you're on an intro call with them in the beginning, they
Yeah.
want you,
Yeah.
and it's tough to break away from that. So, the first thing we did, we started doing the intro calls together. She would lead them, and then I would kind of chime in, and then eventually it got so easy. We're like, you know what, you just run them. So now she's running all the meetings, and for the first time in my career, this past year, this year, so I think, well, this year so far we brought in like 17 million, and I don't know any of the clients. It's really weird for me. It's
Yeah.
good, but
Yeah.
it freaks me out. Not in the way that I'm afraid per se, but like we do an event and somebody goes,
Yeah.
"Hey," they come up to you and shake your hand and they know you and you
Yeah.
don't know them. It's
Yeah.
very strange, you know. But
Yeah.
so I think first thing is delegation. Back to delegation again. Making sure you're putting the people in the place to succeed, and then the second, and this is huge, goes back to again having Google reviews, or at least a good online presence, and then spending money on digital marketing.
Mm, yeah.
Once you get that dialed in, it takes about 6 to 9 months to get it dialed in, like
Yeah.
SEM, retargeting, geofencing,
Yeah.
and I don't understand any of this stuff, by the way. I know it sound like I do because 'cause I'm using fancy words,
Yeah.
but I found a great company that does great work. We worked with 3 companies to find this one company,
Yeah.
and, it's to a point now where all we have to do is dial up the spend, and we'll just get more clients. So
Yeah.
we've literally paused right now because we need to hire another financial advisor because we have too many leads to handle.
Yeah. What a problem to have, you
Yeah,
know?
seriously, yeah.
Um, but you and I wanna point out one thing that you shared where you're no longer, the point person for those introductory conversations, and I wanna highlight something that I think that you probably have done really well, but maybe haven't, like, expressly, said that you've done really well, and that's kinda taking your ego and putting it on a shelf with that, because when you're the head of the business, when you're the person that, like, people know and you've spent years, like, building this business and getting to know the clients, like, there's a certain level of, like, um, I don't know what the word is, but you're proud of yourself. You're like, "Man,
It's
I built
pride.
this, like, this is
It's
mine."
pride, yeah.
Yeah, and then Kim takes over, and then you don't know the clients, and you're like, "Shit, like, this feels different. Like, this is not what I'm used to." Did you go through any moment, or moments of, like, feeling like, "Wow, like, this kinda feels a little weird," or did you embrace it because 'cause you're like, "Wow, I get more time to focus on other things?"
I only thought it felt weird because I'm so used to knowing everybody that when I didn't know them, I felt, like, out of touch, and I felt like, I should know them, and I felt bad. I just felt bad.
Yeah,
But I have the fortunate circumstance of having an amazing father who was born in Hungary, moved over here, put himself through undergrad in 2 years, finished optometry school in 4,
wow.
built had his own business. I got to watch him as my mentor as a kid, and my dad was always just to this day, just so, so modest. So, we all have egos, right? To
Yeah,
a certain extent, it's just there's a continuum, right?
mhm,
But I've always used my dad as a model for just, you don't wanna be a martyr, you don't wanna be so modest that you're annoying, right? Because 'Cause you're trying too hard. But
yeah,
I think that the I don't know, like, I care very much about the people in my circle and whether they like me or not.
yeah,
People outside my circle, I don't really care that much, you know?
yeah,
My staff, I care very much about what they like, whether they like me, which makes me a terrible manager, by the way. I care very much about whether they like me. But so no, I didn't go through a process that made me worry about my pride or anything like that. I looked at it as sweet. Now I can do these other things and take on new challenges because I know not everybody's like this, but I know you and I both are. We're just offline. We were talking about this before we started today, but I get once I get a challenge and I work it out and I figure it out and I've kinda mastered it, I get bored,
yeah,
and I wanna move on to something else that's challenging again, that's stimulating and fun, and I was joking earlier, I haven't worked in 24 years, but I haven't. I mean, I wanna keep doing new things that challenge me, and what I love the most about this business, which, by the way, is the best business in the world. In what other business can you do good things for people and help them and make unlimited income? I
yeah,
mean, my dad, optometrist, when we went on vacations, he didn't see patients, so he's spending money on vacation, he's not seeing patients.
yeah,
Attorneys, you gotta bill for hours. I went on vacation for 2 weeks, on a cruise with our kids, to Universal Studios, and then to Siesta Key, and came home, and we had more AUM and more income than it was when we left.
Yeah.
In what business can you have that? It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, I think that if you can hang your hat on delegating and giving it away and staying challenged and try not to be too prideful, I think that you're going to be really, really successful. Just pretend like everything you're going to do is tomorrow's front page.
Yeah. That's a good way of thinking about it. I knew why we connected so well. I'm 50% Hungarian,
No
so
way.
my grandmother speaks fluent Hungarian, so
Nice.
I only had Hungarian nannies growing up, like, they all spoke Hungarian. I don't speak Hungarian, but they spoke Hungarian to me because they didn't speak English, and I was like, "I don't
Yep.
know what you're saying," but anyway,
Gotta
um,
eat it, Scotty. Gotta eat it. Yeah.
we had, like, polenta, we
Oh
had
yeah.
oh my god, we had, like, chicken paprikas, like, we had
Yep.
all the good Hungarian food, but, um,
Roko Crumply. Yeah.
yeah, 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 my grandmother would make that. She lived right down the street from us, so it was great. But and it's interesting, so I really like this conversation because I don't think many advisors talk like this, where, like, removing yourself from the equation, and, I launched this done for you LinkedIn agency in January of 2025, so it's 6 months-ish old. I had been teaching LinkedIn to advisors for years, like, I have over 700 advisors that I taught my process.
Wow.
I've been doing it myself for years also, but I actually just launched the company, and we scaled up, like, to 30K a month already recurring, right, with our clients, and every day, like, from the very beginning of the start of the business, I thought to myself, like, "How do I make myself less relevant in this business?" Not because I don't wanna do work, like, I'm obviously very busy and I have things to do, but because I wanna help more people, I wanna, like, have a bigger presence outside of myself, and it's fucking scary sometimes, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's sometimes a little scary to have something that's bigger than you. Like, when I have, like, my financial planning business or whatever it was that I was doing before that I could, like, completely control. I know all the clients. I know I have access to all the accounts. It's like me and maybe 2 other people, like, it's full control, right? Like, that feels comfortable, and I'll hear from advisors sometimes that, they'll say to me like, "Well, Scotty, I don't have the desire to make millions of dollars," or whatever it is. And I kind of I understand that. I don't think people need to have like these big goals, but I also think that there's a layer to that comment that basically says, "I don't want to make a lot of money and have a lot of responsibilities." I don't think anybody would say no to making millions of dollars if they got to live the life that they're currently living. So I just take it as like a puzzle where I'm like, how can I build something, not put myself in the line of fire where I just get busier and busier and busier as it scales, but create something that can help more people. I can make more money. I become less relevant because I've created such a great system and such a great team that is able to do this without me. And it's like it's a mind fuck. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's a mind fuck to, like, let go of control and to have something that's bigger than yourself. I don't know if you ever feel that way, but that's definitely something that I experience.
It's been one of those things. I guess my mind moves so fast, and I guess I'm just always so busy, and I don't know, the whole type A personality. I'm also an undying optimist. I never think of the negative side of things, which is a fault, right? So I've gotten better over the years at taking calculated risks as opposed to just taking risks.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I heard somebody say this the other day, that the bigger your business gets, the more people matter. And I think that what that tells me is that the earlier you can, as a financial advisor, learn to get the right people on your board from the first person,
Yeah.
get the right people on the seat and get them delegated and trained up, and like let them go and let them own the position, the sooner you're going to have whatever practice you want. Because some people, I get it, totally get it. Like, there's been moments in my career where I've been really, really busy, and it's like when that mystery pile gets smaller, you feel accomplished. But when you're working 60 hours a week and the mystery pile stays the same or gets bigger, you
Yeah.
start to get a little exhausted, and it's like not as fun anymore. So I
Yeah.
think that I understand people that are like, I don't want a scalable practice with 5 financial advisors. I want a lifestyle practice where I can go on several vacations a year,
Yeah.
take care of my clients in the way that I would want to be treated, and make a decent living. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's the cheat code for, you know, um, having a great living and having the travel and taking Fridays off, and that's fine. And when you get there, if you can do that, and I bet you this, I'd be curious to know what you think. What percentage of advisors really want lifestyle practices versus what percentages have this undying thirst that just won't stop? Like, that's me.
Yeah.
I've had times when I thought I wanted a lifestyle practice, and then I kind of got there and I had this time on my hands and I freaked out. So I'm more freaked out when I have time I don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
It kind of scares me, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm backwards. So what do you think? What
Um,
percentage of advisors are looking for a lifestyle practice versus really looking to grow?
I would I think we go through phases in life. I mean, I think I'm similar to you. I also think I'm kind of fucking weird. Like I think my brain is like maybe like a little like jambled because I never want to stop growing. Like I'm always looking to scale, and I find that process so enjoyable. Like obviously, it's nice to have more money and to have more investments, and like I like having goals and I like hitting my goals, but it's kinda like, I make an extra, like, 20,000 a month or an extra 50,000. I'm like, "Whatever." It's not really changing things for me. So I don't know if I think my perspective is a little skewed, but I do talk to a lot of advisors, and I think I think it comes down to the core values and what they ultimately value. So, like, do you ultimately value safety and security? Do you ultimately value challenge and growth? Do you ultimately value freedom and flexibility? Like, what are your core values? Because that I think that helps indicate, because I think that there are some people that have the core value of, like, having more safety, more security. They're just, like, an older soul, let's just say, and they just really like having that, like, that comfort, and that just, like, brings them joy, and I'm like, "Cool," right? And so they just don't have a desire for, like, a multi-million dollar business, whereas other people are a little bit more psychopathic like us, and they're just like, "I'm never gonna stop," in an optimistic, like, positive way. I don't mean it in a negative way
Yeah,
at all.
I get it.
But yeah, it's a good question. I'll probably give it a little bit more thought because I like to challenge people that say that they want to have like something small and manageable. And I just, from my, maybe my viewpoint, maybe this is my belief system that I'm projecting, but I'm just like, would you still want that if it could be easy to scale? Like, that's the question I ask myself, because I just think that there are belief systems that people adopt that, like, oh, well, if I want to make more money, I have to work harder. Oh, if I want to make more money, I can't see my kids and my wife and my partner, blah, 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 whatever it is. So like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, that's just not ultimately true. Like, you don't have, that doesn't have to be true. So I just like to challenge people's preconceived notions of what scaling and growing looks like. So
Yeah.
that's my thought on it. But
I was gonna
I know.
mention that you mentioned that earlier, and I think that's crucial, and it's not like you're not trying to push anybody into doing something they don't wanna do. I
Yeah,
just think
yeah,
think sometimes throughout the growth of our careers, we hit certain challenges, and it can create brain trash, and to get where we
yeah.
really wanna go, sometimes we need some help, some handholding.
Absolutely. Yeah, some perspective shifts, some seeing things differently. But Adam, I know we're coming up on time, and this has been so fun. Like,
Yeah.
I always enjoy podcast episodes where, like, I forget to look at the time and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, we're almost out of time." And I definitely think that there's opportunities for us to have maybe a part 2, even a part 3.
Would love
There's
that.
more things I'd love to talk about from, like, the staffing perspective, what that looks like. So, but before we kinda sign off, how can people reach you? Like, what would be the best place for people to go to if they wanna learn more about you or even look into your coaching, anything that you think might be relevant for people who are
Sure. I mean, you
looking?
can always find me on LinkedIn, of course, and then, the best place goes probably adrenalineadvisor.com. We're doing webinars once a month. We're doing Q&A calls twice a month. We don't launch till September 9th, so we've got a discount that's gonna last until my late brother's birthday on October 14th. That's another story and part of the program, something we
Yeah.
built out that's really cool called a Safe Haven Kit. But yeah, just adrenalineadvisor.com works, or LinkedIn.
Love it. And we'll put all that in the show notes for everybody so they'll be able to get the right spelling and click on it and all that good stuff. But Adam, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'm glad that we connected. I'm glad that we had this conversation. I know it was a couple months in the hopper, so I'm glad that it ended up working out. And just thank you. I just appreciate your insight and just being here.
No, thank you for letting me be a part of this, and let's definitely do a part 2. This was probably one of the most fun podcasts I've ever done.
Oh, I love it. I'm happy to hear that. All right, everybody. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Advisors Fuel podcast. For more articles, videos, and resources, or to schedule an intro call, visit adrenalineadvisor.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for financial or legal advice. Always talk to your compliance department before implementing any of the ideas shared in this episode.